Young, energetic, and a priest. They're not three words that you naturally put together, are they? Perhaps because we're more used to bumbling old vicars from TV sitcoms or middle-aged men and women with families. Certainly not someone I could relate to, not someone my age. So this made me think, could I be ordained? Is this a job I could consider? I mean, vicars have to start somewhere, don't they? They don't just hop into existence, dog collar and all. At least I hope not. I'm Jessica Bland, and I wanted to find out a bit more about ministry in the Church of England, what the job entails, and what it might entail for someone in their 20s or 30s. So over the summer, we went in search of them, to ask them about what they did, what they enjoyed, and why they felt called to ordination. First up, I'd like you to meet Hannah. She's both the pioneer curate at Riverside Church in the centre of Leeds, as well as chaplain to the Trinity Shopping Centre.
So Riverside Church is a new church that meets in Holy Trinity. It's been going about 3 or 4 years. So part of my role is developing that. And there's lots of people who are new to faith, who have rediscovered faith, and a whole different set of people coming along. So that's really exciting and lots of work to do there. In a general week, I will do a lunchtime communion in Holy Trinity. We'll have preparations for services. I'll meet with congregation members. I try and check in at the Trinity staff briefing once a week. So there's lots of variety, and things like weddings and funerals also happen. Another part of my role is that I've just started being the chaplain here at Trinity Leeds. It's an opportunity to be there for staff, pastorally if they have a difficult time, or just to listen if they need an outside ear, an independent ear. So when I was about age 14, I first thought about whether I might want to be a church leader. At the time it seemed a stupid idea, so I just didn't say anything about it. When I left university, I did a year out with a church and ended up working for them. And during that time, I just had that little niggle that maybe this is something that I wanted to do with my life. So I pushed the door and amazingly it opened, and now I'm doing it, which is a bit scary, isn't it? It's really important that younger people with new ideas get involved, get ordained, and offer ways that are more accessible for people to explore faith. It's the most rewarding thing to do, but it's also really challenging. So therefore I encourage people to really build up their faith. They need to be sure of what they believe and who they are if they're going to do this job.
But it's not just the dazzle of the city centre shopping where ordained ministers are supporting local businesses. I spoke to Ned, who's been doing a similar job in a very different area.
When we first got here, my wife and I, we were really keen on plugging into the community, not just the congregation. So one of my jobs here has been to connect with local businesses, going in and speaking to them. I think for me, part of my role as a priest is to do the work of reconciliation, and this high street particularly has just had a real downbeat feel. Prayer is really important. It keeps you grounded, it reminds you of what you're doing. Being able to pray for the communities, it is probably the most rewarding job.
Ordained ministers are often involved with a really diverse cross-section of the community. After working as a teacher for a number of years, Sharon is still involved in local schools. But now when she's in school, she's wearing a dog collar.
The thing that I like about school ministry is it's so varied. So I come in and do class assemblies, and that's brilliant. I've done a mock wedding at one of our churches, and the schools come for special services. Well, the things that I really, really like about the ministry in school is the interaction with the teachers and building the relationships up with them. When I became a Christian at 16, I think I knew that I was going to work for God full time, but not quite sure what that looked like and what that would be. But I think secretly at the back of my mind, I always knew it was going to be ordained ministry, but I just tried to battle against it. So at the end of 9 years of teaching, I knew it was time to give in to the voice that was nagging constantly at the back of my mind, and just to start to push the doors open and explore what ordained ministry would look like. And it's fabulous.
From primary schools to teenagers, Dan is another pioneer curate, and he runs a number of youth projects at St Thomas's Philadelphia in Sheffield.
I have a staff team of about 11 to 15, depending on the time of the year, staff, interns and students. And I'm responsible for the youth, children's and families work at the church. I think the best bit of the job is probably the best bit of any ministry job. It's seeing God transform lives. So we work with young people, like I said, we work with young people all over the city, and for them the kingdom coming looks very different. It's incredible seeing young people give their life to Jesus. That's the best bit of the job, without a doubt. Anytime when you see some really good stuff breaking in, something of the kingdom, when they stop taking drugs and you see God transform lives, that's the best bit.
Further on in the education system, ministers are still an important link between local churches and students. I'm not just thinking of university chaplains either. I met up with Beth, who was about to head out to the Leeds University summer ball.
My name's Beth, and I've got a really strange job title. It's Pioneer Minister to the Nighttime Economy of Leeds City Centre. The church has recognised that there's areas of society where it's currently not really doing very much. So Pioneer Ministry is about sending those people out to the place where people may not know anything about God at all or church at all, and trying to find ways of sharing and showing God's love with people. This evening it's Leeds University Summer Ball, so there's about 6,000 students on campus, and we've got a team of about 30 people, all club angels, going into the venues to help out, to say what we say we do, is chat, help, listen, care, and just love the person in front of you with whatever love looks like. So whether we're in the clubs or on the streets or at a festival or wherever we are, we do whatever we can to look the person in the eye rather than look them up and down and think, what does it look like to love this person? I feel called to introduce people to Jesus and to help shape the church to do mission. I think the church has got so many skills and gifts to offer this world and to partner with God in showing the world that He loves it. I think a lot of the time we just need to get out of where we've kept church in a box and kept church in a building and just get out into the big bad world and realise it's not big and bad, it's just somewhere full of people that God loves. And actually, what are the ways that we can introduce more people to Jesus?
Curates and vicars often find a place for their own interests and passions within their ministry too. I met one vicar in Halifax who's connected with his local parishioners, not through the thud of dance music, but the wail of an electric guitar.
I've always played in bands, and when I was at college they wanted to do a big service at the end of the year that was a little unusual, and they asked if we would put together, it was called the Rock Eucharist when we did it at college, and it was just a case of doing what we do, being authentic and playing it in church for God. So I suppose really the Rock Eucharist is at the heart of parish ministry here. It's something that has been embraced by the community, so we have quite a large congregation come along. For them it is their church.
Of course, it's not all parties and loud music. One of the more unique parts of the job of a priest is to be there when life is tough.
So I'm Reverend Sarah Hancox, and I'm from the Church of the Good Shepherd here in Kirk Sandal and Edenthorpe, which is part of Doncaster. Funeral ministry is really important to me because you're there at such a difficult and hard and dark time in someone's life when they've lost someone they love. Often they just want to talk, maybe cry, and they're just glad that you're there with them. And it's a real privilege to be there at that moment to hear someone's life story who you otherwise wouldn't have known. And often it's very humbling, and you learn a lot about people who you would never have come across otherwise. What keeps me going when it's tough? Honestly, I think it's, in the short term, things like chocolate or ice cream, and then eventually I remember to take it in prayer to God.
I think I probably spend too much time in the car, if I'm honest. I think the times when I've walked around or got on the bus, I've actually met more people from the parish. It's quite easy for us to forget and hop in the car because it's quick, and sometimes you need to be quick getting somewhere, so you get in the car and drive off. But it's easy for us to get that actually most people in the parish who are out and about during the day don't use the car. Either they can't drive or they can't afford to run it very much. And if I used the bus more, I'm sure I would have more conversations.
Not all ministers in the Church of England were born in the UK. I asked Sarah what she thought her Pakistani heritage brought to her role as priest.
Minority ethnic Christian communities, they have a lot to offer. They are an asset. And also accepting the reality that this country is a multi-faith country. And learning other cultures and religious literacy can enable us to have an effective role and share the love of God.
Just 15 minutes down the road, also in inner city Bradford, I spoke to Tim about how he was finding work in a multicultural parish.
Now, my current job is in Gillington Parish, which is largely Muslim, actually about 70% Pakistani Muslim, and we've got growing numbers of Eastern European folk living in the parish. So how we kind of come alongside those communities, how we serve them, a large part is just making sure in an area like this, the church has a presence, has a visible witness, and seeks to kind of be salt and light, seeks to bless our neighbours. I think to have people around you who you can talk to, who you can confide in, who can pray with you and pray for you is essential, really. You can't be a lone Christian, and you certainly can't be a lone vicar. It can be quite an isolating and demanding job at times. I've only been here 3 weeks, so it's both amazing and terrifying in equal measure.
So, could this be a job for me? We asked a number of these church leaders what advice they'd give to someone who thought they might be called to ordination.
If someone came up to me and said they were thinking about ordination, I would say that it's about leadership, isn't it? But it's also about character. So any kind of ministry that God gives you, he'll give you stuff to do, but he also gives you a person to be. And so I would say your priority is always getting a relationship with God sorted, getting your identity sorted, and out of there trying to work out what your ministry might be.
Yeah, so if I had one piece of advice or something to encourage, I think it would be to kind of immerse yourself in your current church, get a sense of the range of ministries and things that go on in that. Talk to a number of people who are ordained and perhaps who you get on well with, not just maybe your own vicar, but talk to a number of people, and if you can shadow them for maybe a few weeks, or do something like in a hospital chaplaincy or schools work, something like that. I think to get experience, to see actually how it looks in practice and not just on Sunday mornings.
If God's calling you, then God's calling you. He's not calling you to be like anybody else. He's not calling you to be anybody else. He's calling you as you are now. And God will do amazing things to transform you and shape you into the way that he wants you to be. But ultimately, God's calling you. And I would encourage anybody just to push open those doors and to see what happens. Because I would never ever really have thought that this is where I would end up.
Well, it's certainly been an eye-opening experience. I've talked to a range of different people from different backgrounds and working in different communities. But I think the thing that really struck me was how they value their faith. And not only that, but the people around them too. And it's where community and faith meet that it's all the better. Am I called to ordain ministry? Well, I can say I found asking the question to be really rewarding. And perhaps it's a question that you need to ask too. If so, I'd suggest talking to someone at your church about it, particularly an ordained minister. And also the Church of England have a lot of resources to help you explore ordination at coolwaiting.org.uk. So, what do you think? Are you called to lead?